Good evening. We'd like to go ahead and get started. If everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first agenda item is public comments regarding the agenda of March 3rd, 2026. Each person that would like to speak who has signed up to speak will have 3 minutes. That will be up front here in the podium. Rachel will be setting her timer, so once that is finished, if you haven't finished, if you could please close up your remarks in what you're saying, okay? When you come up to the podium, if you could please state your name and your address. We would greatly appreciate that, okay? And please speak clearly into the microphone. This is being televised, so we would like to hear what you have to say. Our first speaker is Katis Williams.
Hi, I'm Katis Williams. I'm a parent of students at West End and MASH. I'm also a district employee. I served on the Finance District Planning Committee, and my husband and I are heavily involved in the community. I wanted to start with reasons to support basically the mega elementary that was proposed by district planning committees. First would be resource availability. Larger schools can offer more resources, including advanced technology and diverse educational materials. Specialized staff, there'd be no more traveling specialist teachers, like art and music. Special service programs can be better supported. A wider range of extracurricular programs and clubs can be offered, enhancing student engagement and community outreach inclusion. Operating at a larger scale can also reduce costs per student, allowing for better funding allocation and better support among administration and ESP staff. Diverse peer interaction. Students benefit from interacting with a larger, more diverse group of peers, fostering social skills and open-mindedness, and I'll share a quick personal story about this at the end. Also, the mega school could often have better facilities such as gyms, dedicated music rooms, art rooms, science labs, and improving the learning environment for all students. I also wanted to touch base on consolidating MAMS and MASH with Cochranton Junior Senior High School, at least to start with extracurricular activities. Very recently, there was a basketball game where high school students from both Meadville and Cochranton supported and cheered for each other. They weren't divisive, they fostered a community of unity and collaboration among the student body. This supports the reasoning to combine athletics and extracurricular programs. Activities would experience enhanced student engagement. Sport teams would be more competitive and resourced, let alone actually carrying full rosters. Cochranton parents have expressed concern that their athlete wouldn't receive equitable playing time. I personally challenge that. My son is Coach Collins' nephew, and he was not given any playing time during the football season. He barely had enough film to submit to colleges for recruitment. Luckily, he was recruited by Mercyhurst, and he plays for their football team. A varied representation of ethnicities, creeds, and races at a school can mean more multi-ethnic, philosophical, and interracial dialogue. Studies have shown that students of all racial or ethnic groups who attend more diverse schools have a higher comfort level with members of racial and ethnic groups different than our own, and an increased sense of civic awareness and a greater desire to live and work in multiracial settings relative to their segregated peers. This ease with diversity can benefit kids in both their future personal and business relationships. This is especially personal to me, as my son was a victim of racial harassment and discrimination while enrolled at a central Pennsylvania school district. The community was not diverse, and the students made a point of making sure my son knew he was not only unwelcome, but less than. Dividing the youth of our community is doing them a disservice. There have been several meetings with the board, and a few more are on the calendar. I hope you are truly taking what is being said and presented and analyzing all of it, not making decisions based on personal preferences and feelings. Being dismissive will not foster a thriving community or school district. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Jenna Stanley.
Hi, I'm Jenna Stanley, and I live in Cochranton. The Crawford Central faces a financial crisis. 4 citizen committees representing 31 volunteers, teachers, staff, and board members confirmed that the status quo is not an option. The data does not support closing Cochranton. The Meadville Elementary consolidation is clearly the higher priority, lower disruption action. Combine the 4 Meadville elementary schools to a maximum of 2, move grade 6 to the middle school level district-wide, sell the instructional support center, and relocate the staff. Neeson Hill should be the one of the schools that is closed. It has never received a renovation since it was built in 1977, carries the highest renovation cost in the district, and has a functional capacity for only 121 students. It is not a viable investment. This consolidation is supported by all 4 committees, each independently arriving at the same conclusion. This leaves both communities, Meadville and Cochranton, with schools serving every student at every grade level. Closing Cochranton is not required to achieve solvency. Cochranton Elementary needs only $2.9 million in renovations and has available capacity for 269 students. Cochranton Junior Senior High has room for 383 students, but enrolls only 322. Moving grade 6 from the elementary improves utilization of both buildings. Redistricting can shift additional enrollment toward Cochranton, strengthening both schools' financial standing. Consolidation alone is not enough. The Financial Committee identified 4 additional actions that combined eliminate operating deficit entirely. Renegotiating healthcare costs, adjusting the tax millage to reflect 30 years of inflation, offering early retirement incentives to senior staff, and generating a one-time revenue through timber harvesting on district-owned acreage and the sale of closed properties. Another option to consider is whether early childhood classrooms could be utilized to increase enrollment. The combined impact of these actions I have outlined is enough to cover the projected deficits, preserve every academic program, and avoid furloughs. Every committee's non-negotiable is satisfied. Both Meadville and Cochranton would maintain conveniently located educational facilities. The path is clear and the decision now belongs to the board. Thank you.
Tomisa Cascaden.
Hi, I'm Tomisa Cascaden. I live in Vernon Township. I have 2 kids at West End. I'd like to second what Katis said, so I'll just build on that a little bit. First, I want to thank the school board for being members and devoting your time to the district. Crawford Central School District is currently facing many challenges that other districts are also facing, and it's mainly financials. With decreasing enrollment, low capacities in numerous existing buildings, less funding, and increased operating costs, the possibility of continuing what has been done in the past is no longer a viable option. I'm not here to give you options. You know the options. Well, there's 50,000 options on the table. Changes are required to be made to ensure a viable, efficient, and productive future for our students and community. These changes, including building consolidations, are needed to ensure the students will have access to adequate resources and proper curriculum for successful transition into a future workforce. They will have challenges like we have not known. They will have to compete with artificial intelligence and robots for jobs, and we need to keep pace with the needs of today. We need to provide them with STEM opportunities, technical competencies, career readiness, quality education, and the skills necessary for them to be successful adults. Spending our dollars on resources towards the development of the students will have a far greater return than spending those dollars to keep old, out-of-date, and high-maintenance buildings in use in Cochranton or Meadville. Both Cochranton and Meadville, that applies to. All of them are under capacity. All of them need money. All of them need evaluated. These decisions will be difficult and unpopular and may go against your own personal feelings. I hope the board has the fortitude to make these difficult decisions anyway, to strengthen our district and provide the best for our kids and their futures. And I hope the community can also recognize the need for these difficult decisions to be made and provide support and come together where and when needed. Our kids are always watching how we adults respond to change. Let's try to keep our minds open to what things could be rather than only how things have been. Thank you.
Tara Kellyman.
Good evening. My name is Tara Kellyman. I reside in the city of Meadville, and I'm also a 20-year veteran teacher at Meadville Middle School. In the city of Meadville, coincidentally, our property taxes are by far the highest in the county. By this, I mean that the city of Meadville, home and/or landowners contribute over $8.3 million to our district through property taxes alone. The second highest municipality to contribute is Vernon Township with $7.2 million, then Westmead Township with $4.6 million, and lastly, Cochranton and the surrounding municipalities there with an approximate property tax contribution of $3.56 million. The data alone based on each municipality is very disproportionate. I realize the board cannot do anything in regards to redistributing that money, but I do feel that at minimum, our school boundaries can be realigned. My main reason for speaking, however, is to advocate for the middle school remaining as a 7th and 8th grade middle school. I'm a 20-year veteran teacher of the district and have taught at Meadville Middle School for the past 18 and a half years. There has been much discussion on moving 6th grade to the middle school. In no committee presentations, however, did it state exactly how that would occur. I have heard many talks that the Meadville Middle School has enough room to house our current 6th grade population from the Meadville schools only. This would include approximately 160 students. With our current facility at MAMS, reports state that there is only 45% of the school capacity being utilized. These numbers were taken from a 2023 report that was provided to those various district committees. I, as a teacher at the middle school, would like to see or be a part of a discussion on how exactly 160 additional students will currently fit at our school. Looking at numbers on a piece of paper tells a person one thing. Walking through the complex and mapping out how logistically this influx of students would work is an entirely different picture. In addition, simply feeding all of those students would be a logistical challenge based on the size of our current commons area where we house our lunch, bathroom facilities, and so forth. Cochranton has approximately 106 students in the 7th and 8th grade, and that number can easily be incorporated into our building while still maintaining a middle school philosophy. The middle school philosophy looks at the entire student, where we have teams of teachers who know those specific students on that team very, very well. In the middle school, I believe it is very important in order to influence students not in just their education, but their social and emotional being as well. Middle school students have a very difficult time just adjusting as far as their adolescence and going through all of the changes that they go through. So I do implore you not to make any hasty decisions and do what is best for all of our students and their families. Thank you.
And Amelia Finneret.
Hi, good evening. I'm a parent of 3 kids in this school district. I live in Meadville, and I've been a taxpayer in the district since 2015. I'm here to ask you to reject the plan to close all the neighborhood schools in Meadville to consolidate into one larger mega school. Neighborhood schools work because they are embedded in the communities they serve. Families can walk, parents can volunteer or pick up their child more easily without having to take off as much time from work. Teachers can get to know siblings and families build and benefit from networks of connections and community. The logistics, I think, are really relevant here. Longer bus rides for 6- and 7-year-olds aren't a minor tweak, they're a serious disruption, especially for that age group. Working parents would have to juggle earlier pickups, later drop-offs, and after-school activities or events that are suddenly all the way across town. Sports, tutoring, music lessons, open house events, other events, parent-teacher meetings, and everything just gets harder when the school is no longer part of the neighborhood rhythm. For many families, especially those without flexible jobs or reliable transportation, having a school so far away from their homes is a barrier. Personally, just given the winter that we've had, and which we may have winters like this again, 2 of my children would have missed a few days of school this year because the bus could not drive down the hill because it was too icy and I had to drive them myself, but this would have been impossible if their school was all the way out at West End because I would have been late for work, which on those particular days would have been impossible. So we were also a one-car family for a long time, and it was very useful to have the school within walking distance, which would not be the case anymore. Consolidation is often sold as the responsible financial choice, but once everything is factored in, like construction, expansion, infrastructure upgrades, and increased transportation costs, the math gets a lot less impressive. And I'm sure that our taxes won't decrease, even if our kids are getting a worse public service at one giant faraway school that we can't even walk to. If we're going to upend families' lives, we should at least be certain of the payoff and the savings that they're real and not hypothetical. So this may sound efficient, but efficiency for the adults in charge doesn't always translate into better outcomes for kids in the long run. So before we close schools that are a functioning part of their neighborhoods, let's make sure we're not trading community stability and practical access for a plan that looks good, but might not actually deliver. Thank you.
Okay, next part, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, okay. The next part, what we're going to do is a review. The board, just to reiterate some of the things that the board has been doing, we had a feasibility study that was done that has been gone over with the board twice. We have done tours of the building and the biomass that is now at the Career Tech. We've had community meetings since November with 4 different committees, community presentations. We've had done McClure energy audits. And we also, the board has been meeting with employees of the school district with some focus groups, with teachers, administrators, support staff, and students. So up on the screen, you will see some of our notes. We don't have a PowerPoint. This was a little bit easier to put things down. The board responded to a request from one of the board members last committee meeting to respond to an anonymous individual survey. There were just some questions. It really wasn't like a survey regarding their initial feedback about school facilities and where we were heading. I just want to reiterate that no decisions have been made. These are some summary points that came out. There's no direct quotes, but these are summary points that have been brought up. So one of the questions was around secondary school consolidation. The board has had varying viewpoints about consolidating secondary facilities. So what that means is not everybody agreed one way or the other way. Some of the key considerations that were raised, student transportation times. An overarching goal was that there would be absolutely no more than 60 minutes one-way bus transportation for our students. Additional transportation costs, community identity and school culture, enrollment decline trends, aging infrastructure and renovation costs, what that would entail, potential educational benefits of grade level alignment, and additional transportation studies they felt would be needed before final decisions would be made. Another option was Cochranton, making that into a K-12 school building. Most of the members did not currently support merging into one K-12 building at this time. Some openness exists for future consideration if the enrollment changed, if it decreased further. Some key considerations that were raised, looking at space limitations, there would be required renovations, developmental separation concerns from having kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade in one facility, construction costs, program additions that we needed to review. Is it possible that we could provide curriculum for our technical students at Cochranton who might receive their academics there and then go to the career tech? Another option was moving grade 6 to the middle school or Cochranton High School. Again, the board has varying viewpoints about moving grade 6 to the secondary schools. Some of the supporters believe that there was efficient space usage. This was a common practice in other districts as far as the grade span, possible future demographics necessity moving forward. Opposition concerns were student maturity, developmental readiness of 6th grade, attending the middle school or Cochranton High School. There was a preference to study that more, and it's possible to even wait until further consolidation might be needed, so maybe to put that off. The next item was consolidation of Meadville elementary schools into one consolidated elementary. There was not a strong unified support for one single consolidated elementary school. Some members favored exploring grade level buildings rather than one full consolidation. Some of the considerations that were raised, supporters cited teacher collaboration, consistency and continuity in our education and instruction, and it would reduced issues with overflow, extra classrooms, and transitions. We have students that are very transient in the city, even though we have stay put, so that would eliminate some of that. Oppositions, increased busing times and costs, large student population in one building. Depending on where it was, emergency planning risks, especially if we're not close to the city. Potential decline in parental involvement if it were at a location where parents could not walk or have transportation. Again, transportation for parents readily. Long-term enrollment decline might create unused space. Financial sustainability, and negative student behaviors in a single school. The next item was consolidation of Meadville elementary schools, possibly 2 consolidated elementary schools. Some of those key considerations, building condition and renovation costs, the historical significance of certain city schools, bus accessibility and public transportation routes. What is the enrollment capacity? Look again at grade level building models. There's a lot of repairs at Neeson Hill to sustain financially. Second and first districts are at capacity with space and student classrooms. Neeson Hill could be a valuable property to sell. And also second district having a historical value to the community. Those were all some key considerations. Another item was closing elementary buildings and boundary restructuring. There was a broad agreement that at least one elementary building closure may be necessary for long-term sustainability. It was also boundary review was necessary, looking at what elementary building and therefore into the secondary buildings students would attend. Some of those key considerations, again, are building renovation costs, property value potential, the traffic patterns at First District, transportation efficiency, having equitable enrollment distribution, avoiding yearly annual rezoning disruptions, boundary changes to add Cochranton, and closing a school. Again, looking at grade level configurations, possibly closing one elementary for now and moving on to the next step. And the Instructional Support Center, Business Office, and Maintenance relocation. The board has consideration to relocate the instructional support staff to another location. The ISC contains those that are listed there, the superintendent personnel, attendance, registration, special services, curriculum, title, programs, technology, the business office, and maintenance and transportation. Some other key considerations would be the potential sale of the current ISC building, relocating to underutilized school space, so that would mean relocating to a specific school, administrative accessibility, avoiding unnecessary new construction, and keeping the administrative teams functional and intact. It was brought up to consider any alternative that was out there to relocate the building, whether that would be in a school, adding on to a school, or constructing a new wing. Also consider looking at ISC for an alternative education placement school. It was also brought up about, not even about buildings, but looking at sports and extracurricular considerations. Discussion acknowledged this as one of the most sensitive topics in our community. There was no unified direction in either way. We would like it to look at further study and community input, and that would be required. So concerns, considerations might be low participation numbers in some programs versus others, financial efficiency, community identity concerns, possibly combining only teams with lower numbers. What is the compliance with the PIAA and the timelines for that? And student participations and opportunities would be limited. Two other important things that were brought up was the solar energy review. There was general agreement to review the solar as a potential cost savings and revenue source. So that will be something that will be forthcoming to our board in March. Key considerations, some skepticism, emphasis on careful financial analysis, and review does not necessarily mean we're commit, but we should definitely take a look at that. Timbering the district land, there was a broad support for reviewing this as well. Some considerations raised were responsible forestry practices, no strip clearing, preservation considerations, and ensuring that property access where needed. The board was also asked about their non-negotiables and what were those priorities. So one of them really centered around student-centered priorities. So students must come first. Part of this was not just about cost savings, it was also about curriculum as well. Physical and emotional safety of our students, avoiding the excessive bus times, manageable class sizes, those range from 15 to 20 to 25, supporting our struggling learners, and avoiding pushing students forward, meeting their skills without meeting those targets without readiness. Community priorities, preserving Cochranton schools, avoiding overburdening taxpayers with excessive debt, maintaining community identity where possible, transparent collaboration with committees and stakeholders, no mega school, no bus runs with excessive times. Staffing priorities, one was do not furlough staff. Hiring additional staff as needed that would support our students, and limited ISC team breakup. Financial priorities, long-term sustainability was a key in everything. Avoiding excessive renovation spending without return. reviewing all potential revenue sources, and keeping tax increases reasonable and predictable. Some other things to look into, a comprehensive transportation time analysis, no matter what option was looked at, updating our enrollment projections, renovating versus a long-term operating cost comparison, grade level building feasibility, looking at alternative education building options. So some of those were ISC, Second District, East End, where could we have alternative education programs. Impact analysis on extracurricular and financial modeling of each configuration. So moving forward, we have a lot to do. We have a lot of great opportunities to look at. So I do believe, and these are some things that came out in the themes, that the board remained committed to collaboration, research-driven decisions, student-focused planning, and transparent community engagement as we move along in the practice. So the next thing that we're going to do is go around, talk to the board. Again, there's no decisions that are being made. This is the first of our discussions, giving some direction, might needing some more research or some tasks for the administrative staff to look into and to report back. So I'm going to turn it around. I don't know who wants to be our first.
Want me to break the ice?
Sure.
All right. First off, I want to say that you elected us to represent you, so that's what I'd like to do. This may sound a little bold, but after I throw out my suggestions, if you totally hate it, I'd love to hear you boo me. If you love the idea, just sit there quietly, maybe whisper to the person sitting beside you. If you think it has some starting points, then give me a little bit of applause. So, but the booing, wait till after I finish, please. So, it was brought up in the committees, the facility committee, that closing the instructional support center, admin, central office, whatever you want to call it, would have zero effects on students. Maybe minimal. So, so I think we should take and contact Crawford Tech about purchasing the former Integrity Auto Building to become our new maintenance facility. If we look at it, now that the biomass building is in their possession, they no longer need that space. So with that said, technically, we already own a third of it. That pie might cut a little differently, but we own a third of it. We are currently paying off a $6 million bond for the biomass facility that was inside that part of that structure. So I think those facts give us a very good negotiation leverage. Admin can be split up and housed in buildings throughout the district. This would potentially eliminate the need for vice principals and replace them with dean of students, because the admin would be in the buildings and could help out. Again, that's something for a discussion. I'm not saying that that's what we have to do. But yeah, would make admin available for respond quickly to anything in buildings. We heard committee recommendations for students not being on buses for more than an hour. Cochranton currently has students on the bus for an hour and 20 minutes. So that tells me right there that closing Cochranton is a no-go. We just can't do it. In fact, I sat and spoke with Girardi's on this matter, and they've run several scenarios. And there is no way that they can get these students to Meadville schools quicker than going to the Cochranton school. They just cannot figure a way to make it do it. So with that said, I think we could take and redraw the lines a little bit to fill up the Cochranton schools, or use other creative ideas to be utilized to shift students to Cochranton. And then if and when attendance levels decrease at the Cochranton schools, combining them could be revisited. And also with that, I want to say that I think we need to have a discussion with Lakeview and Conver Perry. If they're facing the same issues of declining population, are they going to face closure? And if they do, where are we at with that? Are we going to have to absorb some of those students? Again, that's a conversation I think that needs to be made or had before we can make a solid decision. We heard at our meetings that sixth grade students are entering into the middle schools at different educational levels. Therefore, it was suggested Meadville Elementary Schools be converted to grade level schools. I think that is a really good idea. It would kind of give us the mega school concept, but it'll be scalable. So initially, we could look at First District because it has the smallest space available as be a K through 2 school. That would then, get those students with the small, keep that building, and then the smaller kids would have the smaller playground. Seems to work. Second District could be third and fourth because it's a little bit more space, give the kids a little bit more space to run around a playground. Neeson Hill could become fifth and sixth. Again, more space for the older kids. By keeping the three cities schools, all schools would be within a 1 mile radius of each other. It is less than 10 minutes from Neeson Hill to Mams. So using a staggered start-stop, end of day, start of day and end of day, the bus could possibly drop students off and pick them up with little travel time between schools, and then we may be able to get away from the double busing. Again, that is not a me thing there. So parents having different grade level students would be within 2 miles of another building. By creating grade level buildings, all students should be advancing to the next grade on a more equitable basis. Let's see, the extra classrooms can be used to create alt-ed classrooms if needed. If the enrollment continues to decline, we can switch to a K through 3 and a 4 through 6 configuration, which at most likely would then eliminate the First District building because the larger school would still be the Second District and Neeson Hill. As a pilot program, I think we should be moving the sixth graders in Cochranton Elementary to the high school. There seems to be a lot of support for that idea. The students and the teachers all seem to support this and think they could offer even more educational opportunities for the Cochranton Elementary students by moving them. I'm going to suggest that we close West End. I know everybody's going to say, well, it's our newest building and needs the least amount of renovations. But I didn't go off of memory. About a week ago, I went out and drove around those roads, literally to make sure I was remembering properly. If you travel those roads, Middle Road, Cotton Road, and Brooks Road, they all have narrow shoulders, or maybe no shoulders at all. You're not going to find guide rails anywhere. The ditches are very, very deep. So I think adding additional traffic to these roads is a huge safety concern. The narrow roads and then putting 4 times the amount of traffic on it, I personally feel that it is a high risk that I would not agree with. Let's see. Ma'ams, if grade building levels are successful, we can revisit about the pods. I know we've heard pros and cons on the pods that are up there. So I don't know. I'm not a teacher. I'm not in that building. So yeah, with that said, we would just have to revisit that. Staffing, since admin will be in the buildings, the need for assistant principals, as I said, could be evaluated. That would save costs. Dean of students could possibly be used for some of these duties. Again, a cost savings. If staffing levels exceed the building needs, teacher and support staff could be offered an early retirement incentive. And then we would kind of hopefully require those students or the staff members to be on the sub list, create a very solid sub list for us. For me, non-negotiables is acquiring unnecessary debt. I'm not in favor of strapping my grandchildren and great-grandchildren with debt that, for a building that may be obsolete in a couple of years. So the mega school building definitely is a no for me, because, as I said, we'll be stuck with an empty building if the declining population holds. And also logistics of having extra traffic headed to one building. You have all the parents, the buses and everything. Right now, I think if you stay out here in front of this building, it's a little bit of a nightmare whenever the students are being dropped off and picked up. And so doing that all to one building, I think is going to be a bigger nightmare. Having schools in Meadville and Cochranton keeps our schools on 2 different municipal water systems. This adds flexibility to disaster planning. I know the recent things with the water main breaks and everything, this is something we have to consider. If we had to, the cafeteria in Cochranton could serve Meadville and vice versa. So if there is a situation where, in a disaster event, we lose a school, we have a backup plan. West End, being on a private well, offers some additional options in disaster planning, but the biggest problem with that is the fact that there's not public water. Any change out there to the water system is going to probably take at least 1 year in DEP approvals. The other option is a huge expense to go out to public water. So being a former water system operator, I kind of know the hoops that we will have to jump through to do that out there. And then we will have to plan for potentially sprinkler systems. If we add on to that building, could trigger needing fire suppression, tanks put in the ground, whatever. So, I am not in support of anything that would add onto that building. So that is my thoughts. And again, no decisions have been made. I've adjusted these already just after meeting last night with the admin. And if we meet with the staff tomorrow, and if we meet with the students going forward, I may adjust my thoughts a little bit more. But I think from what I've heard so far, this is the plan I would support. So now it's time to boo, sit quiet, or clap.
So I'm just going to piggyback. Can you guys hear me? I'm just going to piggyback off of Ron a little bit. And I know that it will not be in favor of everyone, but from talking to community members on the side and the committees and stuff, I have to agree with Ron a little bit about not utilizing West End, only because they do not have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I called CATA, they do not have a bus route right out there that parents can get to if their kids are sick, like the city schools do, or Neeson Hill. Neeson Hill has a CATA stop right there. West End does not. That's not feasible for parents in town that don't have cars. If their kid is sick, they need to have a way to get up there. What else was I gonna say? I am in agreement of keeping second district. If we had to go down to 2 schools, I would say keeping second district and Neeson Hill, only because the traffic at first district is atrocious. I don't know if anyone has driven past there. But there's days that I feel like our kids could potentially not be safe if they just run out. There are crossing guards there, and the crossing guards do an amazing job, but kids are kids. They're gonna do what they want to do. I'm just going back and looking. Some of my non-negotiables were smaller class sizes. That was mentioned multiple times by teachers. My magic number is 12 to 15. I know that sounds like it's bad, but with 20 to 25 kids in a class, especially with the leaders, they're not learning. And just from hearing from my own daughter, who is an academic but could be accelerated, she's afraid to move up because she's afraid that kids will act up in that class like they act up in her academic class, and she won't be able to focus. No student on the bus for more than an hour. Really, for me, that's pushing it, I would say. But more than an hour one way. I also found it interesting that the range of classes went down to just having academic and accelerated versus our basic. So I would like curriculum-wise to look back at that. I just think that if there's students in academic classes that are struggling or our test scores are lower, then clearly they need more help, and that comes from the basic classes. And then we want a physical and emotionally safe environment for not just our students, but our staff. We want to ensure that our staff is coming to work and enjoying work, and is not like, I don't want to be here, am I going to get hit today, am I going to get pinched today? Sorry, I'm just going through some notes. Not as prepared as Ron. I'm also not in support of the mega school. If we did do it, again, I would say Mason Hill, just because of the bus stop. I know everyone's worried about the money. No matter what we do, especially with the mega school, we're gonna throw money. Like, we're gonna have to spend money. So if that comes to the renovations and we make it to what we need, the money's gonna have to be spent somewhere. If we're consolidating buildings, we're gonna have to make space. I think that's really all I have for now.
I didn't think about the CATA thing, that's a really good
Yes, I called before I said that, because I wanted to
That
make
is
sure,
a
but
real-
CATA does
yeah.
not have a stop out to
Yeah,
West End. so.
but that is a really good point right now.
I mean, we can ask them. When I talked to them, they did not say anything about it, but we can explore that and see if they'll add one.
Because they already go to Walmart.
Yes, they said that's the furthest they go is Walmart. Mhm.
I guess just some of my thoughts on the elementary school situation. Looking at the McClure's estimates and being on the finance committee, and we talked about a $27 million bond to do the mega school project out of the West End area. And as I looked at that and looked at the McClure estimates for full renovation of first district and second district, we could do that for $10 million less. That might even include air conditioning. My thoughts are that possibly, I think we need to look very hard at the grade level schools. Pretty much the way Ron laid them out, except for that I have a real problem with Mason Hill, with the amount of money that it needs to have put into it. I would be in the first district, second district, then West End for 5th and 6th grade. Is my thoughts right now. And some of the other schools have a lot less need as far as renovations and capital improvements needed. And I think that we could go all in on first and second district and do work on the other buildings, on a year-to-year basis as we go, and to help our budget situation out. I think those are, all in all, the timbering, I think, is something we need to look at. I think, I'm also, I guess, something that I really think I'd like us to take a very strong look at is some sort of ed building. And I think possibly, just what we've done this last month, taking East End off of the auction, and possibly it's a building. The location for it isn't great, but maybe the ISC building is a good location for an alt-ed building. It's got fairly good access. Possibly East End is an administrative building then. But, just, I guess we're putting our thoughts out there, so.
Just real quick to answer Jeff's concern about East End. Taking East End off the auction block at any point prior to the day of the auction, we will write a check to Nichols Auction Service for 10% of what the appraised value of that building is, whether we get one bid or not. So that means the appraisal was around $280-some thousand the district did. We'd write them a flat check for $28,000 to do nothing. So at this point, I mean, that was raised during the discussion when we were looking at putting it up for sale, what would happen, asked, and that was Rick's response, he read right from the contract, 10%. So if that building goes up on the block on April 19th, I believe it is.
18th.
There's no bids, we could reconsider at that time, but I would not suggest writing a check to $27,000. I think it's in the best interest to see if we can just get rid of it. But if we're stuck with it, then that comes back to being the playing part into some graphics or whatever that might be. But since I've got the mic, I'm going to address as well. Mega school, not anywhere near 100% sold on a mega school, especially at West End. $27.5 million to build up there, and I know Ron had addressed some things about water, sewage, the roads, busing directly from Maham's office to West End was 7.2 to 7.6 miles, I believe it was, 16 minutes by car. So you figure 18, 20 minutes by bus on a good day. You're taking all those students from within the city, transporting them to the furthest point west. And I think if you look at the map, which I did not, so don't hold me accountable to it, but I believe we are very close to our furthest west boundary lines with Conneaut. And we're going to bus from outside of Meadville this way, on the other side of, I believe, Miller's store, all the way out to West End. And I'm just not in favor of the $27.5 million price tag, although I do believe that grade level buildings could accomplish some of what we would be looking for in a mega school. We would be utilizing K through whatever, and all those kindergarten, first, second grade teachers would be within the same building. We'd have some better internal supports within that building to help those teachers function. We've been through several meetings with staff. We've met with secondary, elementary. We've met with our administrative team. Tomorrow night we are meeting with paraprofessionals, secretaries, and other supports on ideas of what we can do. And we keep hearing things about alternate ed, what can we do about discipline, how do we get parent involvement. And I think if we send all of our kids to West End, our parent involvement is gone. We have, and we heard the lady speak tonight about transportation. And yeah, CATA is a viable source, but CATA is not going to run a bus all day long to West End, at least I don't think so. And if we can't get kids to school at Second District, and I'm not going to reveal the number that was spoken to last night of how many meetings have to happen on the attendance of four days or more, it's a pretty decent number that has to be met as to why these kids are not in school. Now, granted, we have some very good temperatures, but something was the driving force. If we can't get them to a walking school, how we know that they're going to be up and ready to go to a transported school? I mean, that's a concern. Busing is the other big concern. We hear no more than an hour. I don't know what single busing would look like. I don't know what double busing would look like. We would have to do a feasibility study on transportation, and that was recommended by the Finance Committee's recommendations to look into what would that cost. And everybody says you're going to get reimbursed, you're going to get reimbursed. What are we going to get reimbursed, and when will that reimbursement drop? The way the state operates on reimbursements, one day you might have it, the next day you won't. We've been pretty lucky in the last two budgets, the proposal for this one, the last one, we got some equity and level up monies, I believe is what it was called, that may disappear in future budgets. But the biggest thing with the mega school was 3 years, I believe is what finance recommended. I don't have that in front of me, but I believe it was in 3 years, we're right back to where we are now. Not enough money to pay our bills, and we have an $27.5 million bond we got to pay. And I think I'm correct, and I know Josh is right there, and I think he's nodding, that we're back to the drawing boards. We have a multi-million-dollar debt, a big building, and from what I have seen between the feasibility study, and I've looked at enrollment numbers from 23-24, from a district study we did, a presentation in November, we had numbers from 2013-2014, numbers from 23-24, and I asked for the current attendance numbers that we have now. There is leveling off within the city. We have some growth at West End. It's not a ton. We have some growth at Neeson Hill, but we have kind of leveled, but we're still seeing some decline in total enrollment. And by 2033, I believe the projections are we're down more. So building a mega school, we are building a school that's already going to be too big in several years down the road. And what do? We have no wiggle room. The only wiggle room we had, we just closed. So I am kind of in support of a grade level, keeping first, second, and my idea is to keep, I know nobody's going to like it, is Neeson Hill, because of just the structuring from stop to stop, time-wise. Second district, first district to west end, still going to be anywhere around that 15-minute time frame to transport all the way out there. How will that affect? And it might be very doable, but we would not have to do the $27.5 million expansion. We pick up the renovations we need. And I believe West End was only around $1 million, a little over $1 million. And we have second and first, as Jeff has already mentioned, if we close Neeson Hill, puts us more into a viable debt load that we would not see this major shut off in 3 years where we can't really afford where we're going. And that's just my opinion, and I'll leave it at that, but go from there.
I can go. All right, let's see here. Can I be heard?
I can't hear you here.
I struggle with microphones. All right, how about this? Can any, no.
Not yet.
How about this one? Okay. So I'm going to, I guess, kind of go with Jeff here. The price tag to repair Neeson Hill gives me major concern. I do really like the idea of the grade level buildings. Talking to the teachers, this sounded like a very good idea, not only for the students, but for the teachers as well. The resources would all be in the schools. The students would be going into the high school at the same level if they're all being taught within the same building. The resources can be shared, and it just seems like a very feasible or the best route to go for our staff and students. However, I would, like I said, side with Jeff as far as closing Neeson Hill versus West End, just because of that price tag. And I definitely would not want to close all of the properties that are not landlocked. So I would want us to keep at least one. If, the board does decide to close West End, I would ask that we try to keep Neeson Hill. So like I said, we don't have only landlocked properties in Meadville. I do not see the savings as a benefit from closing Cochranton schools or combining them at this time. As mentioned, the transportation costs and even the transportation times on the buses. We do currently have at least one student that I am aware of that gets on the bus in the morning at 6:17 a.m. And that's to go to Cochranton. So I would really worry that student would have a 2-hour ride to school just to get to school and then another 2 hours home. That's 4 hours on the bus. Even just an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half or hour at night is not feasible. That's not beneficial for our students. Also, with the closing of any school, I would ask that if possible, we keep as many teachers on staff to act as aides if they're willing. Hopefully, if possible, one per grade level would be good. But maybe we could do, cut that back a little bit. I also would like to keep our class sizes, if possible, to 15 would be my preferred. 20, 25 would be the max. And then, again, I just want to reiterate that, again, no decisions have been made. And we really need to make sure we are doing what's best for our students and our teachers. Like Letitia said, we want our teachers to be happy to come to work. We want them to want to be here. It was my first grade teacher that made me want to be a teacher myself and to continue on to school board and working within the school district like I have been. Our teachers are very valuable resources, and I feel we need to take care of them just like they take care of our students. I think that's it. Did I cover everything?
this is an opportunity to bring together two locations to become one district, regardless of whether or not we close a school or we keep a school open. I think that we should become one school with multiple campuses. This is becoming a big issue. It has been an issue the entire time I have been on the board. The Cochranton versus the Meadville versus the Cochranton. I want it to be Crawford Central. Whether we change the titles of the schools or not, we need to, as a community, come together when this is done and support whatever decisions are made. We know that whatever we do is not going to be popular with every single person sitting in this room or outside those doors or within a 50, 60, 70 mile radius of these schools. We definitely have your best interest at heart. Your students, your teachers, your communities, your families, you yourself, as you sit here in these chairs. We want to do what is best for you. We want to produce educated children to go forth into the world to help foster what's going to happen in the next 20, 30 years. We're seeing the struggles from our teachers and from our admin and from all the people that we've discussed things with recently. Our students are not being educated. Our teachers are being bullied, to put it bluntly. We need to have a change. How we get there, we don't know. But it needs to happen. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to make our district the best district? Are you willing to put your feelings aside to do what's best for the district? You are asking all of us to do that, but are you willing to do that? And that's all I have to say.
Good.
I just want to add one more thing. I know it's, can you guys hear me?
Need a mic.
Can you hear me now? Okay. And I know this isn't important to everybody, but it is important to some in here. Just to talk about the sports consolidation, because we didn't really mention that a lot just the one time. I just want to let everyone know that from what we've heard, people want to keep everything separate, but whatever we decide to do, it will be done on the PIAA timeline. I know that was a big issue the last time when we had 1 million people at a meeting, because it does affect the students, especially like the juniors and the seniors. If you change numbers halfway through, they then become ineligible for postseason. So, like I said, I know this isn't like top of the priority, but for the ones that do care about sports, I want you to know that we are keeping that in consideration as well.
I have an addition to that.
Think this one? So if we were to look at the combination of sports teams, maybe, look at the ones with lower enrollment, I would ask to visit the idea of providing a community bus from Cochranton to Meadville. Maybe it leaves the campus at 4, arrives back at like 6:30 to help with the transportation so the students can still participate easier in the sports, because I know transportation from Cochranton to Meadville during that time for parents at work might be an issue where students can't participate as much as they had been.
And it was also brought up yesterday at our admin meeting about looking into a potential like a community shuttle type thing for the district in general. If we consolidate or something, like if we could hire someone, if your kid is sick and you don't have a car, oh, we can bring them home. So we're trying to look into stuff to help families, and we've also have talked about looking into next year group stops for winter when the weather's bad. like in central locations at, I don't know, the hospital or whatever, to try to help alleviate those walkers that have to walk when sidewalks aren't shoveled and stuff like that. So we're trying to take any and all suggestions into consideration. If you guys have any suggestions, you can email us. I'm not saying I'll respond to everybody if we get a ton of emails, but we are reading them. I've had students email me, I have emailed them back. So we are taking in everybody's concerns, thoughts, and trying to come up with the best solution for our community, Cochranton and Meadville together, because we are one district.
The other thing I kind of want to point out is the feasibility study, whenever they presented it, they put in unnecessary upgrades, okay? There's things that if you are renovating that portion of the school, you have to bring it up to current codes. But you don't have to just go through the building and randomly upgrade everything to current codes. So there's areas in the school where they're saying about the handrail is too short because it doesn't extend to the bottom step. We don't have to correct that. And so I would look seriously at every number on there, especially for Neeson Hill, because we have to make a decision really soon on that. And so I think we need to look at that and say, okay, let's take off everything that is not necessary. And even they went through there and talked about putting new receptacles and stuff in, which, you know, again, it's not a requirement unless you are doing that part of the building. So yeah, I did several pages before on the study itself and questioned a lot of stuff, and then they redid the study, but there is still the things in there that are not necessarily required to be done as one renovation. And a lot of that, whenever you're dealing with parking lots and cement work and curb work, that is a huge cost too. And if we start saving money elsewhere in the district, that could be done out of the regular maintenance budget instead of putting it in as part of these renovation costs. So I think we could take a real close look at the numbers for the renovation and get a more realistic number on Neeson Hill. So, you know, that's my opinion on that. You know, I don't know if anybody shares that opinion, but that's, you know, I'm a buildings guy. That's literally what I've kind of done most of my life, so.
Since you're addressing Neeson Hill, the McClure numbers will no longer be any good after the end of the month. Am I correct, Dr. Gum? Is that right? So, if there's any intentions of the board to even reconsider that and have consideration during our committee meeting to go into any further discussion on Neeson Hill, Dr. Gowden and the administration will have to advertise such document that states that the board is considering renovations to Neeson Hill. Has to be advertised 10 days prior to any vote, which means it would have to be advertised pretty much ASAP, that if we decide during the committee that we want to do something, that we would be within that guidelines to do it. In other words, the guaranteed savings is gone that they projected, and the guaranteed pricing is gone. As I said during the committee meeting, I think it was committee meeting when we were meeting, no matter what we do for renovations construction, a lot of the price is now going to be driven by what we all keep hearing about data centers and data center construction. It is out that these people building these data centers are willing to pay top dollar. When I say top dollar, I'm not talking $60, $70 an hour. We're into the hundreds of dollars an hour, $200, $300 an hour to get electricians and to get HVAC people and plumbers into these buildings once they start, because they want these data centers because there's money to be made. We have a data center proposal down in Beaver County. So now we're talking. The cracker plant has gone up for sale. If anybody's not aware of it, the cracker plant's for sale. But data centers are popping up there. One near Butler, another one. There's another proposed site that you think what's going to happen with all the union people that are up here. They're going to be heading just like they did when the cracker plant opened. All of your union guys were down there where they were making $70, $80 an hour compared to what we could pay regularly. But I'm not putting fear, I'm not trying to make anybody make a decision, but I just want to say that we're looking at whatever that number was, 10 million, 12 million for Neeson Hill. that we probably could pull some of that out if we didn't want to do it. If we wait another year, that's not going to be that number. It's going to be much, much higher. That 27.5 million for West End is going to be much, much higher. No matter where we go for renovations after this summer, it's going to be much, much higher. But to get the ball rolling, I would suggest putting it on the agenda just for consideration, that we don't waste and miss an opportunity if that's what we want to do. Second of all, we seem to have a tendency, as Jerry has mentioned over and over again, we need to have meetings. And I think what we need to do is, if we're looking at any kind of consolidation of schools, and whether it be, it seems like we got some kind of a direction towards grade level, keeping first, second, and at this point, it looks like West End. I would like to see the district try to do a feasibility study on transportation, what that would look like, what kind of configuration you would have, because if we kick this down the road another month, we're just going to be waiting another month to get anything back. What it would also look like, I mean, we're going to do it, and I don't think there's enough support on the board for a mega school, but what would that look like as far as transportation?
I don't know why
And I think
because I don't think
several board
people
members
say
in the last several months have mentioned that if we're going to do a construction or renovation project or a consolidation, where's the payback? Because if we're going to do something, that was really part of what the process was to encounter. We're going to close schools, we're going to get something back. And we keep hearing, we're not going to eliminate staff, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this. So what are we really going to save? We're going to save the overhead of those buildings, and that's about it, and some utilities, but not a whole lot, because we're still going to have utilities on the other buildings. But I'd really like to see what that transportation study would be, what the times would be, and yes, it's going to cost money, because no transportation company is even going to look at doing that for nothing. And just get back to us so we have an idea of where to start. And we can keep talking and talking and talking, but we're really not getting anywhere. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Can we add to that, looking at the boundary lines also,
Yeah,
for like
looking at the
sending
boundary
kiddos
lines,
to
what that would be.
Cochranton?
And sometimes I think the boundary line's a good idea, but it's also a bad idea. Because we're going to be gerrymandering our boundaries year after year. We're going to do it every 5 years, just to, to get a few more kids in one building over another. I think we need to stick rather than having all the confusion to a parent. My kid went to first last year. Well, this year he's going to second, I mean, if it stays the way that we have current K-6, if we go building level, it's a little different story. And what would that look like for busing, and how would you time your schedules if first district's your first drop, second district second, West End, figure 16 and line to West End, but your West End bus is coming in, you drop there first. How would that look? And it's going to take a lot of work on administration, now that we don't have enough already to do. But I think in order to start making decisions, we have to know what we're getting into and what that would look like. I mean, that's...
Are you saying look at it as West End versus Neeson Hill?
I'd like to see both, yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify that.
But I would be looking not the current structure we have. I'd be looking at a grade level, because it seems to be some of the recommendations from these staff meetings we've been having with staff, utilizing our K through 3 staffing all together in one building. We have all our Title I teachers in the same building where they're struggling, and then build from there our teams that we need to do to try to increase test scores and just educational purposes. I think it would work better than keeping several K-6 structures. And at this point, it seems like we're going to keep 6th grade in the elementary school, because I don't see a whole lot of movement moving into the high school or middle school at this time, because that still needs a lot of work. I do think Cochranton, since they have actually prepared, maybe take a look at that as to what we need to do, directing you as the administration to pursue what that would look like, whether it's union dealings or whatever we have to do, PDE, and do I don't care if it's a pilot
It would
program
be
or
the
whatever.
staffing that we have to look at,
Yeah.
honestly. So with the boundary lines, we're gonna need some direction. We can't come up with 50 different scenarios
Right.
and figure that out. So I think it would behoove us as the administration to say, this is our recommendation for grade level buildings, and developmentally, which is the best building, here and here, to have that and come back to you with that.
Yeah, I guess that would be the thing, yeah. Do we need to do K through 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6 right now? Or can you go clear down to K through 3 and then 4, 5, and 6? I think that's a big step. And then what Kevin and I discussed also is doing it in stages where, if we do select First District as your K through 2, do that 1 year, then the next year do the others. So, that might be a scenario so we don't have complete chaos,
The only way you could do grade level with 2 buildings, you'd have to have West End addition, probably in Easton Hill addition.
Why don't you let us take a look at
Yeah,
that, and we can
we're
come
just
back
thinking
with
if
a
you pull out the
recommendation
other kids
based
out of
on
those.
classes and development, appropriate sizes and that sort of thing, and special needs and all that. Come back with a recommendation.
I think while you're also looking at that, don't forget to include some alternate ed classes, or take a look at the ISC for adult ed as well. Just look at a couple options. Is that kind of what the board wants her to do? I mean, is there agreement to that?
Yeah, definitely I'd like to see sticking with the inner city schools and then West End is, an option, but I think the busing with everybody, and I think we've heard from the people that having the ability to get to the schools, versus trying to get out to West End makes it a lot simpler. And so, I think we need to look at it both, just inner city versus what's the busing going to happen to go out to West End.
Zach, I don't need that, I'm loud enough. When Zach was speaking last time, right, inner city schools, there's grants available if we keep the students in inner city, right? Mm-hmm. So that's going to help financially for us. If we keep them inner city, there's grants available. There's more things we can be doing. I'm in agreement we keep them local. If we bus kids all the way out to the West End and we put $27 million on it, it's not a good scenario for taxpayers. The other thing is, West End at 322, and Eric can back me up on this, 322 by Salvation Army. How many accidents are there on a year? Tons. They'd have to do a traffic study, red lights. There's a lot of issues out there. The other thing is, talking with all the teachers, talking with the administrative staff last night, behavioral issues are a major factor in some of this thought process for me. Listening to what the teachers go through and the struggles they put up with in school, it's phenomenal. It's been an eye-opener for me, total eye-opener. If we can do something to facilitate helping teachers manage the students, the behavioral issues in these schools by consolidating grade levels and having the right people there, I'm sure every teacher out there is going to say yay, but we need to look really hard. And like I was just saying, everything that started these committees is cost savings. We're trying to save money so we don't have to raise taxes. So far, everything I heard, we're status quo. I don't see cost savings. I haven't seen a return on investment anywhere yet. I haven't seen where we're going to save this district a bunch of money that was projected by the Finance Committee that we need to do. There's some hard decisions we need to look at. And so far, any plan we have put out here, we're talking about adding transportation, adding this, consolidating busing kids from, sports and stuff. That's all cost. Where are we saving money? We need to look at this, right? We need a solid plan that's going to save these taxpayers money. Or what are we doing? That's my question. It's a hard question, and everybody here needs to look at it, including every parent out there.
That's the staffing is your big cost. We've seen that. I mean, if you look at the budget that was presented, it's the, salaries and benefits is 45%, is that right? 45% of our budget is, so unless you can offer some early retirement incentives, we're stuck. Because, it was pointed out, certain schools are weighted heavy on, tenured teachers and, the higher benefits and everything. So wages and benefits. So I think early retirement has to be part of our plan going forward if we're going to save anything,
Just a thought, that if we get our schools where they need to be, more people would be willing to bring their kids back to our schools. It might help. I know it's a what if, it's throwing up great beans and hoping they grow. But if we can get our schools to be the school of learning and not the school of just existing, a school where our kids can come and learn how to read so they can get to that next grade level and not just be pushed through because that's what's expected of us to do with them. There has to be a way of moving forward without losing some of the things that these people need. Our students need teachers. Our teachers need support. We need transportation. And again, I don't know how to do that. A miracle. No, thinking outside the box. Something has to change. We have to be the change. We can't be status quo even when it comes to doing the things just because that's what's expected of us. We have to be the leaders where other school districts might say, hey, look at Crawford Central, look what they did. Look what they did in 5 years. Look how they turned their scores around. Look what they did for their kids. It was hard. It cost them something, but it was worth it. Is that what we want to be? Or do we want to be hiding behind the dollars and the transportation, and our kids cannot read when they get to 7th and 8th and 9th grade? When they graduate 12th grade, they can't even go to Walmart because they can't fill out an application. That's where we're at. We need to get our kids educated so they stay here, so they bring stuff to us. We have to invest in them. And by investing in them, we're investing in their school, and their education, and their teachers, and where they're at. Do I know how to get there? No. But we here on this board are not miracle workers. We need every one of you to help. We need everyone. This isn't a board decision, honestly. This is going to be a community coming together to help. Teachers are going to have to get together and say, what is more important, my pension in 50 or 60 years, or teaching these kids in our cities and our current areas? And if that is not what you're here for, maybe you shouldn't be here. If you're not here to teach, you're just here to get weight loss drugs, you're here to get cushy 6 hours. I'm sorry. If you're here to get 6 hours a day instead of working 8.5, 9 hours like the rest of us, if you're here to do, I'm not saying that it's you in this room. I'm not saying any teachers do that. Listen, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that is what teachers are here to do.
You're on the phone at 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, I get it. I get it. I'm not saying you're them. I'm not saying you're not teachers. I'm saying that if that is what it is, if those are the things that we have, that might not be what we need. You are here because you care. I've seen you guys here at many meetings, but I can guarantee you there are teachers that are not here. I'm not trying to be what? I'm not trying to be divisive at all. Please don't think that I'm trying to say the teachers in our district are not good teachers. I'm sorry. I take it back.
You still need $30 to $40 million.
I didn't mean it.
All right, redirect here. Sean,
Additional revenue?
anything to
Only way you
add?
can get additional revenue is raise taxes.
No, before and after school.
Okay,
Programs.
so Monday, the 16th, we have a committee meeting, right? So we're here on that right now, that we want to discuss the Neeson Hill visa project, so we know whether to get that posted. So we're gonna have to make a decision on that.
I was going to say, by posting it does not commit us to doing the project. It just says we're advertising, in case we do move forward. Is that correct?
It'll, go ahead.
What the advertisement has to say,
That was easy for you to say.
what the advertisement has to say is that there's going to be a vote about it.
Okay.
Whether you actually have, which way you go on the vote, whether you actually do have the vote, it just has to be advertised that this is a possibility.
So I mean, we could decide tonight to do that advertisement, and not that we can do that. But I'm just saying, we can say tonight, let's go ahead and advertise, and then when we vote, then that's when does determine the direction of it.
Yes?
Yeah, so I mean, there's nothing wrong with advertising it. And so, yeah, definitely we would want it on the agenda, so we can say, yes, we're going to advertise and do this.
And can we look, like Ron said, to see like what exactly we need
I'll look
to
at,
have done?
I will look at the
operate
Neeson
that
Hill
school
stuff a lot
safely next
closer,
year?
and then I'll have some answers for Monday.
Yeah. Okay.
When's the drop dead date?
Well, we need to have it
Our March
this
meeting.
month, the March meeting, the March 23rd at the
I mean,
very latest.
if we were gonna move forward with Nathan Hill, drop dead to sign that contract's what, the end of June?
End of March.
Yes, we have to be able to lock in if we're gonna.
It's right
Lock
along.
in the
Lock in
price.
the prices and everything. That's why this is kind of necessary.
Jerry, in order to lock in the pricing the end of March, in order to have the building, and it will be a rush to have the building ready to open on the first day of school, September 1st, 2nd.
We have to have that notification on him,
10 days before the vote.
so in essence,
So,
we should
like-
just say tonight, we
Yes.
gotta advertise it.
Yeah.
That's what I would say, yeah. Just
Makes
do the ad, and then we'll see how the vote comes out.
Yep, and so the other things, I hear we'll start working on coming up with a comprehensive grade level consideration plan. Looking at transportation at West End, depending on what direction we want to go, boundary lines, what that might entail, and reviewing grade 6 at Cochranton High School. We just have to check into some staffing things.
Can we also get information on if the board at the vote is a majority, they don't want to put the money into the building, where are all those students going to go next year?
It would remain open, Neeson Hill would still remain open, because we're
We're not closing.
beyond the point.
We
of
just
closing.
wouldn't be fixing anything.
Right.
Okay.
Right, I mean, you could put repairs,
Yeah.
Latasha, we could put some repairs and so forth, but we're beyond the point of closing the building for next year.
Yes. Okay.
We would-
I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to be like a, oh, by the way, your
And I
kid's
think-
going to.
Yeah, if we want to, if the board wishes to close the building, we would definitely want to make that in early fall for the timelines. There's projected timelines that are out there that you have.
I mean, I even think that is with just building realignments too. Building or grade level buildings, we probably can't do for another year at least. Just for planning.
Oh, for planning,
I
yeah,
mean,
not for
we
next
are a
year,
year
yeah.
out
Yes,
on
well, you
a
could, like the
lot of
following
things.
year, yeah.
Yeah. And I
Other
think
schools
that,
have
that's your place was the school closing grade realignment procedures that Dr. Douglas put out, and the referendum or public hearing required to for school closures. And I believe we had an email sent that was sent from from Rachel, that was forwarded to us as well with guidelines, just to relook at that, you have that.
Can we set hard dates? Like, let's say that, we're gonna decide we're gonna go grade level, right? And we're gonna move forward. Can we set hard dates that we need to meet these requirements? Let's say we need to,
I think it's going to take the administration.
Yeah, you're gonna have to let us,
work.
like, look into it, but yeah, it would have to be early fall if you want us to get this together.
well, I would just
Like
like to be
early
able to plan
fall,
so we
like
can have
September, October.
intelligent conversations
Yeah, like
around it.
the transportation study being done before that, so we can like read it, talk about it.
Yeah.
Figure out if this is gonna add money, if it's gonna be cheaper to bus the kids to West End or cheaper to fix Neeson Hill. Like, we need to be able to have actual conversations before we have to make a decision.
Keep them all in the city.
Yeah.
See that, yeah, I forgot about the grants being available for the inner city stuff, so that was a good point to make too, is to, yeah, if we stick with those schools, are we going to have more grant opportunities for Neeson Hill? than we will have for West End.
Well, no matter what, we got time.
We need to compare
dictated by the
numbers
state, we gotta
regardless.
do this, right?
Right, yeah.
So if we're gonna do grade level, let's say October, we gotta have a decision made.
September.
Right.
I like to see a calendar so I can say,
Ron,
we need plans.
Yeah, well, sorry.
those grants were income-based, so if you move kids around and you change the incomes of the kids that go to the schools, then it doesn't matter where the school is, it's who attends the school. So you have to factor that into.
Well, Zach kind of mentioned that was different, that we, it had to be an inner city school inside city limits.
Yeah, but I think what she's alluding
That's a
to
different thing, yeah.
would be, like, second district, the poverty rate of second district is probably greater than first district, and definitely greater than East or West End. And I believe those were kind of poverty-generated grants that we would
Say
have
it's
to,
far off. If you look at our free reduced lunch economically disadvantaged.
we're pretty,
We're pretty close.
okay, so,
A lot of the-
I mean, that's another component you would have to look at, so.
But if you move students from other areas where you're not meeting the income requirements, yeah, that could change that.
Right.
Because it's based on your area and the kids, the family, like the families that go there and their poverty levels. So if you're pulling from the wider area, you might not meet those
They could throw that off.
limits.
We'll look
Just
into
to
it.
consider.
I was going to
We'll look
say,
into it.
I hate to put anybody on the spot, but can we, maybe ask the finance committee, now that they have a little bit of direction, explore those grant opportunities, and will they be lost if we do keep West End into the mix of things? Is the better grant opportunities with sticking with the inner school versus closing, one of the schools and keeping West End?
Yeah, I might even be able to ask TGS that, since we've been working with.
Okay, yeah, so,
We're kind of on the know more about the grants.
right, but I think that would be a good piece of information too. If we're going to lose grant opportunities going forward, that might help sway our decision too.
I would also like to remind everyone that our job here isn't just to cut costs, but we can also look at revenue increases as well. I know like timbering is going to be a one-time, payout. But maybe we could look at, as silly as it sounds, like a district-wide fundraiser. Or I believe it was the finance committee that had suggested before and after school programs, something along those lines. I think some of our families might even find that helpful. I think Cochranton may have a daycare that does that. But maybe if that's something in Meadville, maybe that could be explored as well. Maybe we can all try to come to our next committee meeting with revenue increasing idea as well as cost savings. Just so, we're not just focusing on what can we take, what can we also bring to the table.
Well, if we want to throw that out there, let me throw the plan out that I thought of. We talked about foresting, now Cochranton, right now that back lot where the wooded area is landlocked, which we have to take and kind of see what's available to access it. But what if we did timber it off, get the one-time fee, and then find a developer that we could take and say, hey, we'll do a tax incentive where you build houses and we won't start collecting money until that house is sold. And so we're kind of offering more housing, which then would attract more people into the district. And we could possibly do that other places too, where we would have extra land. And so, that way you build houses, get more tax revenue. That's one of the things I've been thinking of too. How can we do that?
Hey, Jen, remember that company was gonna come present about the towers they wanted to put up?
Oh, houses.
No.
Towers. Cell towers.
Yeah.
Were we gonna have a presentation on that?
I can have them come in. I didn't.
That's a revenue.
Anybody wanting to look into that, but I can have them do that with the ESBA.
Yeah, why don't we do that too?
Okay.
We can move for a couple places.
Yeah, it's a continuous revenue stream.
I just want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for volunteering your time. Again, I just want to reiterate, no decisions have been made, and us as a board want to work with the teachers, the students, the community to try to get the best solution for everybody. We're not going to please everybody, and we know that. but we want to try to make it the best situation that we can.
Ditto.
We have.
We still have 2 board members we haven't heard from. Can we hear their opinion?
Well, well, first of all, I want to mention, even if we close buildings, even if we do close any buildings, no matter how we may consolidate or whatever, any existing buildings, we're going to need some repairs and or maintenance if we're going to sell them instead of just having them torn down. I just wanted to mention that. Also, I am in favor of possibly doing the grade level buildings, and I would tend to prefer Neeson Hill as the 5th and 6th grade building, but I'd be willing to consider West End too. So that's pretty much all I have to say that hasn't been said already.
As the son of a former teacher, listening to our teachers and the struggles that they're going through has been eye-opening for me, as Jerry said. I've thought long and hard about that. I haven't come to any any substantial conclusion, but I do believe that we're not going to win any favor by opposing our teachers, by making enemies of our teachers. You are possibly the most important link in this entire scenario. Because it is your direct experience with our students. You are the link. You are the one that are bringing the ideas to them and making them into the citizens that we need to move forward in the world. There are a lot of things to consider. I have not even come to a concrete conclusion, but we do need to have revenue. We can't just take. We have to work as a team, both us and the community. I'm looking forward to having your input and your assistance because we need it. Thank you again, as Latasha said, for your time and for being here and for being involved. I and the rest of the board appreciate it.
I guess before you guys all go, I just cannot let it sit. I know what Tammy had said. I kind of understand where she was going, okay? She feels terrible about what she said. She's telling me that. I just want to say, I applaud for what our teachers have done, what the work they do, what they're going through. Having sitting through several meetings, both secondary and elementary teachers, and hearing some stories, trying to figure out how do we engage the parents to support the teacher when it comes to educating their child rather than rewarding their child for bad behavior. We had the discussion again last night with some of our administrators, and I'm sure we're going to hear it tomorrow night when we meet with our paraprofessionals, because some of them are also taking the, I'm going to call it abuse. But the kid goes home and they're rewarded. Teachers do not deserve that. Teachers deserve support. We deserve to get them what they need to teach. If that means, and it's going to be a tough decision down the road, smaller class sizes, it's been recommended. That's what we need to do. Because if we lose these kids between kindergarten and 3rd grade, we're losing them for life. Because those are the critical years to educating. And we keep hearing over and over and over again, but if we have 24, 25 kids in a class, and we have 15, 16 of them with IEPs, and those kids are being disruptive, it only takes 1 or 2 that causes total chaos in the entire classroom. How do we address that? And it's not a simple answer. We haven't figured out that answer. But I think with the teaming of our teachers, our administrators, and collaboration with the board, somehow getting the parent supports out there that we need. And it's tough being a parent today. I'm a single parent. Rough. It totally is. Trying to get from point A to point B is horrific. Tonight, rushing to get here, my heart is here. Kids, I got to take care of the kid too. One in college, one in 6th grade. I don't know the struggles that's going on at second district, first district, but hearing the stories of the abuse that our teachers are going through has got to stop. A mega school is not going to stop it. It would help. It's not going to stop it because now we have more of a disconnect with the child and the parent, child and the school. I don't know, maybe you guys have an answer that we haven't heard as to how we engage those parents, bringing them back to the school, getting them in there, working with the teachers and finding what do these kids need. And the other part is the biggest mental health crisis we have in the county. I mean, people are going to say there is no mental health crisis. And if you say there's no mental health crisis, you don't see the picture, because there is. We have kids that have gone through more trauma in their lives than most of us will experience ever. And they're only in kindergarten, first, second, third grade. And how do we address that? I mean, it is a big problem. And it's been on my mind, their minds. We've been through those meetings. And I don't know what that answer is. Until we figure it out, we keep going along. And I know our Director of Special Services is doing one hell of a job trying to get as much as we can. There have been cuts in budgets in past years, and I'm going back 10 years, 12 years. We've eliminated teachers, and it's time to bring them back because the system has failed, it's not working. And Dr. Goswell, where she was involved last night in our meeting, I mean, we hear it. Some buildings were doing certain things, and other buildings it was lost, never brought back. We need that. And if our kids can't read in 7th grade, we have failed. And is it our curriculum that has failed? Is it our teachers that everyone wants to point the finger as it's their job to do the work? It is not just the teacher's job to teach. There's a home program, and as Jeff has mentioned at a meeting, reading at home is a big component of that. And if our parents are so busy doing everything else they have to do, and they can't meet that, where do we find that little avenue to fill in to get that child what he needs? And I don't know if we have the answer. We could be laying in this room tonight and nobody wants to say anything, but if someone has an idea, send us an email. Reach out to whoever, reach out to the school and say, hey, have we ever looked at doing this? Or we looked at doing that? And if it means, and like Jerry says, we keep adding costs, but if it means we get a bus, a mini bus, and we go out and pick up some parents and bring them in for a training and get them on board, rather than when that parent gets the phone call from the teacher, rather than holding it out here because they're just getting vulgar at, but they can hold it up here and have an actual conversation with the parent on how to address this problem with their child. I think we'll see development grow, we'll see our programs grow, we'll see our kids growing, and we'll go somewhere. But until that happens, it is just, everybody wants to scream and holler, it's not my kid, it's not my kid, you're picking on my kid, this is happening, that is happening, and all the teacher's trying to do is teach. And yes, there are problems. I mean, in every profession out there, there's a small percentage that's bad. We all know that. I don't care if you're a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, we got some in the room, superintendents, board members, we all have those bad few, but there's a hell of a lot more that are on the positive side, and it's probably more like 99% that are doing a very good job, and they need to be commended. And yes, we have problems with a budget, 40-some%, salaries and benefits. Everybody wants a raise, and healthcare is going out of the world. How do you control those? Well, yeah, we can offer an early retirement incentive, but do we really want to get rid of all the teachers that have been here for a long time that have the trainings, that have the profession down to a science on teaching? And as far as healthcare, it's not going away. And until we get some kind of healthcare plan that everybody gets, and I don't want to go down the socialistic path, but healthcare is just, this year, 22% we went up. Next year, what's it going to be?
At the IU, they said 27%.
20% is the IU.
27 is what they're predicting.
I don't know what that universal cost is going to be, how you're going to control that. That is just something we have to keep figuring out year after year. But that's what we're here for, to figure that out. What we got to figure out is what's best for kids and how to get teachers what they need to teach. And I'll leave it at that.
think we had some good, great comments, not good comments, great comments, and a lot of thought that's gone into this from a lot of people. So our next meeting will be our committee meeting on March 16th, Monday, followed by a regular board meeting on the 23rd. All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
guys, and the sound system again. Those that